Right, Shalom. Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh. Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rachak, Kodash, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the whole elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, wherever you may be, and wherever you may be. Shalom, Yeshua, Shalom. All right, so we get into little various articles here. It says Trump threatens EU with tariffs over oil and gas import. It says Trump threatens EU with tariffs over oil and gas imports. All right, so it says in the summary, Trump says EU has tremendous trade deficit with the U.S. Europe is already buying a large chunk of U.S. oil and gas. U.S. already exporting all the energy it doesn't consume at home. EU says it is ready to discuss trade ties, including energy. EU's trade surplus with U.S. is second largest after China. And you notice a pattern here with Trump in his scripted arrogance, all right, where he's often pushing a heavy hand towards his own allies. Okay, and the scripture talk about in Revelation 17 how these shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and naked and burn her with fire. All right, because at the end of the day, the NATO and the EU will separate themselves from America, who's pretty much not doing them any good. All right, their interest is always for America and not them. All right, they can benefit from certain things, but it's not because the care is about them, it's the care is about America. All right, and they're starting to see that not every decision made by America benefits us. Sometimes it's just them. And then there's little jabs that are thrown, like with Trump, okay, that is more so like being a bully towards its own allies. All right, and so they're starting to see these things. And that's all according to prophecy. How the Lord's going to make it play out, but that's all according to prophecy. To have whatever decision come where it'll be just that final split. All right, so December 20th says U.S. President-elect Donald Trump said on Friday the European Union should step up U.S. oil and gas imports or face tariffs on the bloc's exports that include goods such as cars and machinery. All right, it says the European Union should step up U.S. oil and gas imports or face tariffs on the bloc's exports that include goods such as cars and machinery. And if you're really looking at it with a spiritual eye, these things are strategically done. Okay, talking about doing the same thing to Mexico. All right, so that puts the so-called Mexican people into a pickle. But then who's going to pay for those tariffs? The American citizens through their tax dollars or however they're going to get it. Okay, and then you threaten Canada in the same way. Well, that affects the Canadians. But also, in return, Canada is threatening to do the same thing, which does what? Affects the Americans. And who's going to pay for those dollars put on those tariffs? The American people. Okay, China. They threaten China. Okay, put China in the pickle. But then China does the same thing back. Or even if they don't, who has to pay for those extra dollars on those tariffs? The American people. And the average American person doesn't understand or realize that. And so here you now see the same thing, and they're going at their allies. All right, the European Union. Let's read one more time. It says Trump said on Friday the European Union should step up U.S. oil and gas imports or face tariffs on the bloc's exports that include goods such as cars and machinery. That puts the European Union in a pickle. But in turn, who ultimately has to pay for these things? The American people. So you see a thing that's being spread semi-globally, but those being affected the most are where? Here in America. And that is very strategically done. So it says the EU already buys the lion's share of U.S. oil and gas exports, according to U.S. government data. No extra volumes are currently available as the United States is exporting at capacity. But Trump has pledged to further grow the country's oil and gas production. And that's why they attempted to destroy the the Nord Stream, okay, and wanted to pretty much disrupt what Russia's flow of things and their money. All right, so it says, I told the European Union that they must make up their tremendous deficit but with the United States by the large-scale purchase of our oil and gas. You see, he's demanding the hammer of their. How has the hammer of the earth been cut asunder? Okay, when it's all said and done, everybody's going to be happy that America has been blown to smithereens. He says that they must make up their tremendous deficit with the United States by the large-scale purchase of our oil and gas, Trump said in a post on Truth Social. Otherwise, it is tariffs all the way, he added. The European Commission said it was ready to discuss with Trump how to strengthen what it described as an already strong relationship, including in the energy sector. Yeah, when you view it from the eyes of of America, it's a great little partnership deal, whatever here. All right, but when you look at it from these so-called allies of theirs, it's like this ain't always so great for us. This is good, but those other three things, all right, they're not so great, and the bad outweighs the good. So it says the EU is committed to phasing out energy imports from Russia. You see, we just mentioned Russia. There you go. The EU is committed to phasing out energy imports from Russia and diversifying our sources of supply, a spokesperson said. The United States already supply 47% of the European Union's liquefied natural gas imports and 17% of its oil imports in the first quarter of 2024, according to data from EU Statistics Office Eurostat. Trump, who takes office on January 20th, has vowed to impose tariffs of 10% on global imports into the U.S., along with a 60% tariff on Chinese goods. And I think I remember there's supposed to be like a planetary, parade or planetary alignment on like the 21st or something like that. So if that, goes down, then maybe the Lord will send a big sign there. Who knows what the Lord is going to do? But we're praying 2025 be, the spilling of the bucket and all the water comes flowing out. So it says, Trump, who takes office on January 20, has vowed to impose tariffs on 10% on global imports into the U.S., along with 60% tariff on Chinese goods, and that's whopping 60% tariff on Chinese goods. Do you know how that will hurt the pockets of the Americans? They're already struggling to pay for gas and food and housing and things of that nature. And now, when you got to go in and buy other things out of the store, and the prices are spiked up even higher, or however it plays out, either way, it comes out of the American people's pockets who are already struggling. All right, 10% on global imports into the U.S., along with 60% tariff on Chinese goods, because in order to get them into the country, they have to be shipped here. And when there's a extra dollar amount tacked on this particular good, I don't know, we'll just say some flip-flops, right? In order to get these flip-flops into America, you got to pay the tariff on it. And who pays for that? The American people. But yet, not all the American people buy or wear flip-flops. But yet, it comes out of your pocket. So it affects everybody, regardless of what the item is, because you have to pay for it. It says, duties that trade experts say would upend trade flows, raise costs, and draw retaliation against U.S. exports. The U.S. ran a $208.7 billion goods trade deficit with the EU in 2023, according to the Census Bureau data. Although the U.S. runs a surplus with the EU on services, Trump has focused mainly on goods trade, frequently complaining about the bloc's car exports to the U.S. with few vehicles shipped east across the Atlantic. There's a little chart there, I'm not going to get into it. German and Italian car exports currently face a 2.5% U.S. tariff, which could quadruple if Trump makes good on his threats. See? So it says Trump has also vowed to authorize hefty tariffs on the top 3 U.S. trading partners. And we just mentioned Mexico, Canada, and China. And if he hits all three of these at the same time, that's going to highly affect the American people. Okay? And put them into a bigger slump than they're already in. They're complaining already. He says on his first day in office, if they hold on, these ads and pop-ups and stuff. All right. So it says on his first day in office, if they fail to stem illegal border crossings to the U.S. and trafficking on the daily opioid fentanyl. Yeah, I forgot about the opioid thing, but yeah, the border crossing that was a threat. All right. He's been talking a lot, which, of course, has been back and forth with Mexico, but also with Canada. All right. He's been, speaking of those things with Canada. So he's threatening all of his so-called allies, man, or supposed allies or whatever. Anyways, whether ally or not, he's threatening countries in a matter that the American people don't see, because they're like, yeah, that's right, Trump. Tell them to cut down on illegal migration or do this or do that, and they're not knowing the outcome of this effect is going to be on you, not those people who you want to stop from crossing the border. All right, the outcoming effect really is on you. All right, because the money that is spent is going to come out of your tax-paying pockets, and you're already complaining about those pockets. William Wrench, a trade expert at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, said the EU could negotiate its way out of Trump's tariffs. This could be a win-win, telling them to buy something they want and need anyway. You see? Oh, there's more. I thought that was the end. Okay, let's get this. So it says, however, most European oil refiners and gas firms are private, and governments have little say on where their purchases come from unless authorities impose sanctions or tariffs. The owners usually buy their resources based on price and efficiencies. The U.S. is already producing and exporting record volumes of oil and gas, and increasing those would require significant investment, especially for LNG, liquid nitrogen gas, export terminals. Ranks, or however how you pronounce it, noted that while there is demand in Europe now for U.S. oil and gas to replace shunned Russian supplies, long-term demand is unclear with the transition to renewable energy sources. Companies will be reluctant to invest if they think current demands is transitory. Buying more U.S. energy, says the U.S. has steeply increased purchases of U.S. oil and gas following the bloc's decision to impose sanctions and cut reliance on Russian energy after Moscow invaded Ukraine in 2022. Right. Going back to also what we mentioned, what was it? Man, I just lost the name of it. The pipelines. I forgot the name of it. But all the little action that was going on in the Baltic Sea with the cables and everything, there was all that little stuff that was going on there a year or two ago. So it says the United States has grown to become the largest oil producer in recent years with output of over 20 million barrels per day of oil liquids, or a fifth of global demand. U.S. crude exports to Europe stand at around 2 million BPD, representing over half of U.S. total exports, with the rest going to Asia. The Netherlands, Spain, France, Germany, Italy, Denmark, and Sweden are the biggest importers according to the U.S. government data. All right. So it says Europe is taking, and these are all pretty much vassal states, all right, in a sense, to America. It says Europe is taking close to its maximum capacity for U.S. crude, meaning there is little scope for stronger imports next year, said Richard Price, oil markets analyst at Energy Aspects. He also said refinery closures in Europe in 2025 won't help increase imports. The United States is also the world's biggest gas producer and consumer, with output of over 103 billion cubic feet per day. The U.S. government projects that using LNG exports will average 12 BCFD in 2024. In 2023, Europe accounted for 66% of U.S. LNG exports, with the UK, France, Spain, and Germany being the main destinations. U.S. oil production growth will likely be slow until 2030, according to the International Energy Agency. And really, at the end of the day, when you look further, it's just all about money, all right? Who's putting money where? Okay, where you getting your stuff from? Gas output could meanwhile, not saying there's not a deeper meaning behind all, but I'm just saying, on a surface level, you know, it's all about that money. Gas output could meanwhile rise further to meet record U.S. domestic demand, and LNG exports could also increase if the government approves more LNG terminals. Because you really wouldn't want your ally, your sworn ally, buying things from your sworn enemy that you can actually get from your ally. All right, so anyways, it says that the EU imported around 2 BCDF of Russian LNG in 2024, and it can move to ban those supplies and seek replacement from other sources, said Alex Frawley, LNG analyst at ICIS. All right, and that's the end of that article there. So it says Trump threatened. Okay, I got clipped. And this article here actually isn't new. I saw it sitting on my phone, and I realized I don't think I ever got to it. So it says Netanyahu. This is from the New York Times. It says Netanyahu tells Trump Israel must complete its victory. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel said he told President-elect Donald J. Trump that the country had delivered a tough blow against Hamas and Hezbollah. All right. I really don't know how old this is, or new or old. Okay, here's a date, December 16th. So not entirely too old, but I do remember it. So there's Big Ear Benji. So it says Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel said he had told President-elect Donald J. Trump in a telephone conversation over the weekend that Israel needed to complete its victory. I believe this might have been in one of my world news clippings there. I'm not even sure. It says over Iranian proxies and bring back hostages held in Gaza. Mr. Netanyahu, who described Mr. Trump as a friend, said in a statement on Sunday that their latest discussion had been very friendly, warm, and important. The Israeli Prime Minister has been quick. Of course, it is me because America is, is the back pocket of those Israelis, man. So it says the Israeli Prime Minister has been quick to cultivate its relationship with Mr. Trump and was among the first leaders to call him after his victory in November. Many analysts have said that the incoming president, who has called for a halt to the war in Gaza, is broadly supportive of the Israeli government's goal of ending the conflict with Hamas on its terms. This month, Mr. Trump threatened hell to pay if the hostages in Gaza were not free before his inauguration on January 20th, prompting praise from Mr. Netanyahu, who said the statement added to pressure on Hamas. Mr. Netanyahu said that he had explained to Mr. Trump in their call on Saturday that Israel had dealt a tough blow to both the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah and to Hamas, which attacked Israel in October 2023, setting off the war in Gaza. Both groups have been supported by Iran. Mr. Trump did not immediately comment on the call. Israel has largely destroyed Hamas as a military organization and killed its leader, Yahya Sinwar, in an offensive that has shattered the enclave and killed tens of thousands of people. It also launched an intense campaign of airstrikes and ground attacks in Lebanon that severely weakened Hezbollah, killing its leader, Hassan Nasrallah. The two sides began observing a ceasefire last month, and they've killed over a dozen individuals, man, not just a couple of people. They were knocking off guys left and right. Some of us remember the exploding pagers and the what was this? I believe it was cell phones or something like that. But yeah, they had 2 rounds of exploding devices, and man, yeah, they were knocking these guys off. It says in recent days, amid the fall of Syria's longtime leader Bashar al-Assad, Israeli forces have also moved into Syria beyond the Golan Heights and launched airstrikes on military targets in that country. Mr. Netanyahu said he had told Mr. Trump that Israel was committing to preventing Hezbollah's rearmament, and all this thing was set up from the beginning, man. From the when they first were attacked, because they were already, they were never buddies, man. But when they got their first attack on that October date, right, they haven't stopped. They commenced in genocide, okay? Because it's one thing for you to get your lick back, and right, so then it's another thing for you actually to go to war, and so they chose to make sure they did not scale back. They made sure that this was war. And in this war, they made sure that they commenced in genocide. And they're not going to stop, man. Everything they're trying to conquer is all about territories and land that belong to the Israelites, man. That's what it's about, all right? They're trying to, because they're falsely claiming to be well, they're claiming to be Israelis, but to be the Israelites. And so this is the promised land. So we belong in the promised land only and not the other people. So they don't want to take over all this land to feign prophecy, all right, that we are the people and we're the ones that belong in this land. And it's just not going to happen. The Biden administration in its final weeks has intensified efforts to reach a ceasefire in Gaza. The White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said last week that the administration aimed to seal a deal this month that will halt fighting in exchange for a return of hostages, although months of talks involving Israel and Hamas have failed to reach a breakthrough. And that's what's going to happen. Every time they go and mention a ceasefire, I pay no attention to it. I don't even put it in my news clippings, all right? Because there's not going to be a ceasefire, man. And if it is, someone's going to break. I believe there was one that was broken, okay? But yeah, that's the point. There is going to be no ceasefire because uh, uh, Big Ear Benji doesn't plan on stopping anytime soon, okay? They are on a goal, on a mission. They have a goal, all right? And they're not going to stop doing what they're doing, all right? So there will be no ceasefire, okay? And even if they wanted a ceasefire, that's not what the will of the Lord is, all right? He wants the war to go down, all right? So he can go ahead and bring, that final destruction, all right? But that's, a prophecy that's going to play out on its own time. So it says Netanyahu tells Trump Israel must complete its victory, all right? And so that's what he's planning on doing, man. He's planning on he wants to take all the territories that belong to us so they can feign themselves to be us and they can do whatever they're going to do. I don't know. Like the scriptures say, he's in the secret temple or whatever. Whatever they're planning, it doesn't really matter because they're all being controlled, even though they're on the left-hand side. They're being controlled, all right? The king's heart is in the hands of the Lord, and as the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. Proverbs 21:1. So that's it for this various articles. Yeah, that's it. Just those two that I have for you. So, shalom.